Daring Do and the Letters from Her Publisher. Written by Suri Polomare. And read by... Wait, what is that? Up the corner there. What's that word? Why, it says... review. And not reading. What sport of madness is this? Yes, folks, rather than read a story out loud for your delight, I've decided to take some time and try my hand at reviewing a story instead. Why? Well, the easy answer is because I can, and that's basically all there is to it. I won't stop doing readings, of course, and the fanfics I review might end up being read at a later date. Heck, I might just go back and review some of the things I've already read. Why?
Because internet!
Actually, if you really do need a reason, it's just fun to talk about stories sometimes. Yes, I am a part of the Heroic Review, where we discuss fanfics, tropes, episodes, and the fandom at large with quite a bit of fervor. By the way, you should totally go and listen to the Heroic Review, available now over on Obob Scribbler's channel, because it's really fun and interesting, and it's a great, big, good time. But, at the same time, we can't discuss all the fanfics that we'd like to. So, this is my attempt, as someone who loves the medium of writing, to just throw out some opinions and advice on fanfics that you might not necessarily know about. And if you're still wondering why I'm doing this, I refer you to my because internet statement. Anyway, enough padding.
To the story proper.
Daring Don't, written by Dave Oh My God, Rarity Takes Manhattan is Awesome Polsky, is probably the most polarizing episode of Season 4 so far, at least at the time of my recording this. Some people, like me, really enjoyed it and actually found it a bit of an interesting concept that Daring was not only defictionalized, but appears to have been publishing her real-life adventures as fiction. Others, however, found it way too out there to really accept the idea. Regardless of what side of the argument you're on, I think there's one thing we can all agree on. In destroying about a bajillion headcanons, this episode also provided plenty of fodder from the Ashes of the Fallen for newer, more interesting, or downright hilarious ideas for the fandom to play with. Thus, I refer you to Suri Polomare's— No, not that one! Yes, that one. That's much better. Anyway, I refer you to Suri's fanfic, Daring Do and the Letters from Her Publisher, a 2-chapter affair focusing on the possible comedic consequences of Daring trying to pitch her non-fiction as fiction. And let me tell you, it's one heck of a ride. To start off, I should note that both chapters feel very different from one another, which leads me to believe that the first chapter was originally intended as a one-shot. Not that this matters, as both chapters complement each other wonderfully, they're just in very different styles. The first chapter is basically a collection of letters taking place before and after Daring Don't that were sent to A.K. Yearling from her publisher. Books and Crannies. And they were sent by her head editor, Bezel Mint.
What is it with his fandom and puns?
Anyway, the chapter ends on an extremely long letter stating to AK that her identity as Daring Do has been discovered thanks to the fact that she put the elements of harmony, including Princess Twilight, into her latest book. So apparently the staff at Books and Crannies are pretty much the only ponies in Equestria that actually acknowledge Twilight's ascension into a demigod. Isn't that right, cab passenger from Rarity Takes Manhattan?
Well, you know, I got lots of places to be and stuff to do, and I don't read the papers, so I don't know. I gotta go back to Minnesota or something.
The letter goes on to state that, as an XP for Indiana Jones, she is pretty much guilty of dozens of crimes, mostly concerning trespassing, grave robbing, and vigilante justice. You know, all the stuff that's great in fiction, but utterly horrendous when you think about what's happening in real life. Anyway, the chapter ends with Daring deciding to pay a special visit to her publisher and have a quote-unquote talk with them about canceling her book series over the fact that she, kind of flubbed the truth a little. Boy, thank God stuff like that doesn't happen in our world. Eh?
I'm so topical!
The second chapter of the story plays out more akin to an actual self-contained story, chronicling Daring's attempts to track down her publisher and take him down a peg for canceling her series and basically ending her career as an author. However, while she's there, pretty much every villain that she's faced before have gotten wind that Do's exploits have been published, and most of them are none too happy about how they're portrayed in the books. Of course, the villains we've actually seen in the show up, like Aoizotl and Caballeron, but also plenty of characters created specifically for this story, such as a changeling soldier who's more interested in getting Daring's autograph than capturing her, or pretty much every single officer in the Griffin Kingdom, though I'm not sure just how big a threat those griffins pose when they can't tell a soccer trophy from the supposedly rare and ancient goblet Daring stole from them. Oh, griffins, the butt of every joke since Gilda. The entire story is just a riot, and comedy is the strongest aspect of the story, from the unprofessionalism of the letters sent to Daring in the first chapter, complete with the publisher trying to convince her to put an XP for themselves into the book, to the over-the-top arguments between the villains over who has more rights to bash Daring's head in over the things she's done to them in the past. The second half of the story is very fast-paced and has plenty of action to complement the comedy, making the whole thing feel a lot like a Looney Tunes cartoon put into words. While this is normally something of a problem, as physical comedy is something that doesn't translate well into a printed story, most of the humor comes more from the interactions and witty duels between the characters. I'll also say that the twist at the end of the story legitimately surprised me, and I honestly did not see it coming, though there were some signs of it near the beginning of the second chapter. But aside from that one twist, it's important to note that you aren't going to find much depth here. That's certainly not a problem, but for people who like a whole lot of weight to their stories, well, you're definitely looking in the wrong place. Still, I'd say that just makes the humor all the more effective. It doesn't ask us to think too hard about what's going on in the story, and we're able to just sit back and laugh along with the insanity of the situation. And since the story moves at such a good clip, you really appreciate just how good the jokes are and how minimal the descriptions are. There's just enough there to set the stage, but it leaves enough open that you are left to picture what's happening in your mind's eye. You know, it makes you use that little thing called imagination. There isn't really a whole lot to criticize in the story either. It knows exactly what it is and never tries to go beyond its bounds. It's the kind of thing you read when you really need to put a smile on your face, or just want to relax and curl up with a good story. In a way, I actually think that makes this story pretty indicative of Daring Do as a whole. I kind of imagine the Daring Do adventure novels in the show really would be the kind of thing that would be easy to read and enjoy for anyone. Of course, all I can really do is imagine, since the official Daring Do books don't exist in real life.
Why can't I have nice things?
Okay, got that out of my system. The bottom line is, this is a fun, fast-paced, comedic romp that takes advantage of the canon supplied by Daring Don't, while also poking a lot of fun at the absurdity of Daring being a real person. Or pony. It takes the concept and runs with it, making this one of the funniest fics I've seen in quite a while. Well, that's actually trying to be funny anyway.
It's funny because bananas look like penises.
Now, before I get down to the nitty-gritty and actually tell you my final rating for the story, let me just clarify how my personal rating score is going to work. Rather than using a numeric scale or a star number or anything like that, I'm going to be using a scale similar to The Completionist. Incidentally, if you haven't checked him out, you really should. He has a great video game review show and an awesome sense of humor. Not to mention one of the most amazing beards I've ever seen. Seriously, look at that thing. It's hypnotic. It's like if Chuck Norris and Grizzly Adams had a love child. Anyway, the scale. Right, scale. At the very top of the scale is Must Read, which is a rating we probably won't be seeing too often. I'll only be giving this rating to very special fanfics that I honestly believe could be enjoyed by anyone, even people who don't normally read fanfiction. Because we all know fanfiction doesn't measure up to true literature, right? Oh. Then at the other end of the spectrum is Let It Burn, an option reserved for only the truly terrible, horrendous, debasing, awful stories out there. You know, like, cupcakes. So, where on the scale does Daring Do and the Letters from a Publisher fall? I'd say it's solidly within the realm of worth a damn. It's a story that knows what it is and does everything it can to make its audience laugh by using its concept, both in its letters and in its adventure. Even if you aren't a fan of Daring Do, and regardless of whether you loved or hated Daring Don't, you're going to have a smile on your face while you read this the whole way through. The only thing it has going against it is also its main appeal, the fact that it is a simple, fast-paced adventure story. So anyone looking for some bulk and depth in their story is going to come away disappointed, but come on, it's adventure! And adventure is awesome! Adventure. Yeah! But hey, that's about the only thing that keeps it from being a must-read, but it certainly doesn't have a limited appeal. It's just that some people don't like stories that just exist to make them smile. I don't understand these people, but I still have to take them into consideration, right? Sometimes it sucks to be fair, but go read it. It's good! I have spoken! So hey, I hope you enjoyed this review and that it was mildly entertaining and educating for you. I'll be doing more of these down the road, but I'd really like to hear what you thought of this in the comments or whatever. So don't forget to check out the other videos on my channel if you want to have some more fun. I'll be seeing you guys soon. Goomba Brony away!